Chris McKee. On today's episode, I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to market and promote a concert for yourself. So I've been an award-winning music agent. I've produced concerts for dozens of Grammy winners, everyone from the likes of Rihanna, the Black Eyed Peas, The Roots, 50 Cent, Wu-Tang Clan, and hundreds more. I've also been a teacher at a music college in Toronto for 8 years, so I know a little bit about what I'm teaching here. So the first thing you need to do if you want to market and promote a concert, I found my students day one, very few of them have any clue. They know they want to work in music, they just don't know exactly how everything works. So I'll teach you a little bit about that. So you want to book a concert, the first thing to do is you need a band, right? So you got to start small. I've had so many guys call me up on the phone at the office and be like, Chris, I want to do a concert. We're going to do this huge arena show. And I say, okay, that's great. Well, tell me a little bit about who you've booked before. And they're like, nobody. I'm ready to do it. I got the cash. Doesn't always work out that way, so my suggestion, start small. I always say to bands, if you can't sell out a concert venue that holds about 200 people, you got no business going on the road across the country. It's the same thing as a promoter. If you can't do a show that in a small concert for about 200, 250 people, then you got no business kind of moving up the food chain. The music industry is a lot like sports, where you don't just say, you know what, I'm going to play basketball and I'm going to play in the NBA next week. You got to play high school ball, AAU, JUCO, college, get drafted, work through the ranks before you become a real pro. So in order to book a band, you got to go through the agent. Going through the manager, that's one thing if you're booking a local band, but you want to start booking bigger bands, you got to go through the agent. So understanding what an agent does, an agent is the guy that strictly books concert tours. Managers do other stuff. They're the babysitter that help get a record deal and find producers for your songs. Agents don't do that. Agents strictly book concerts and they work on commission. So some of the big agencies in the US you should start with is CAA, which is Creative Artists Agency, William Morris Endeavor, they're well respected, ICM, AGI, there's hundreds of them. Just Google book an agent, you'll see a whole bunch. Here in Canada, I'm Toronto based, so a lot of this is going to be with a little bit of a Canadian slant, but I'll try to keep it somewhat American because I know there's a lot of American viewers out there and international as well. So here in Canada, the Feldman Agency, Paradigm, Pacan Entertainment, they're all some of the bigger agencies. There's also smaller agencies all across Canada, the US that can help you book bands. So start with an agent. It's always better to get a band that's on tour because if you just call up one manager, let's say a band that lives in New York or LA and you've got a club in Dallas or Seattle, Washington, or here in Toronto like me, and well, they're going to expect you to pay for flights, and sometimes they travel with really large crews, and the opportunity for you to make money is going to be very minimal. So the best thing to do is find out what bands are on tour, and so that way you don't have to, sometimes you don't have to pay the travel cost, or if you do, it'll be a travel split amongst quite a few promoters, so it's going to be significantly cheaper, and it's going to allow you the opportunity to make some money on your show. So find out who's on tour and say, let's say you get a band, you're gonna book, rapper X, that's who's coming through, and the agent will tell you, well, I'm in Toronto, Chris, he's available in Toronto on December 1st, we're gonna be in New York on the 29th, and we're moving up that way. So once you get the routing in place, then talk to the agent, and now, the agent's never really going to tell you what a band's worth, so you should have a general idea of previous venues they've played, what the concert ticket price is, and so that way you know what offer to make. No agent, very few agents will tell you, oh, this band's worth this much money. They'll say, make me an offer. And it's up to it's your job to kind of figure out what the band's value is, and also what's the right amount that you can make money and also not insult the band. So go through the agent. Let's say you've booked the band, you've got rapper X, and he's going to play for you on December 1st, but where are you going to play now, right? So now you need a club. So it's always important to get multiple venue holds, is what they call it, at different clubs across the city. So I'm in here in Toronto. It's very competitive to book clubs. Sometimes you got to book 6 months to a year out. Think about the bigger shows you do. Once you get to the arenas, you can say, all right, I'm going to book rapper X and I'm going to put him at Scotiabank Arena or the Barclays Center in New York, whatever it is. And on December 1st, well, what if, the basketball team's playing? What if the NHL team's playing? What if there's Disney on Ice? Whatever, motocross, all these venues are used for different things. So get a venue hold, and I would suggest holding multiple venues. So here in Toronto, Rebel Nightclub, great spot. Shout out to Inc. Entertainment and all those guys. They're going to have a whole bunch of different agents, agents from Paradigm, William Morris. They're going to have all these bands on tour, and they're going to say, I want December 1st as well. So when you call the club, and say, all right, I want to put a hold on December 1st for my band, they may say, well, your fourth hold. And that means there's 3 other concert promoters or agents who have that venue held ahead of you, but they also may hold 3 days because tour routing shifts. So they may hold December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, even though they know the show's likely to happen on December 1st, but they'll pull holds on all those 3 dates in case something happens, the routing changes or they don't get the venue they want. So they said, okay, well, move it to December 2nd. I've got a hold there. So once you get a confirmation, that agent says, you know what, Chris, we're ready to go. You can use Rebel Nightclub. I would then have to call the club and say, all right, my band's ready to confirm. Can you challenge those holds? So then the club has to call those other agents and say, look, Chris is ready to go with this show. We're going to have Rapper X on December 1st. So unless you can confirm within 24 hours, you're going to lose your hold and we're going to move ahead. So they do that with the 3 other agents and promoters, and hopefully you can move ahead and get your hold. Now, also understanding what's the right venue for your band. I have so many students and young artists come to me and say, I want to go on tour. I said, that's great. Tell me about what club you see yourself playing in Vancouver or Calgary or Montreal. And I know they always look back at me completely blank. They have no idea what I'm talking about because they don't know what clubs are in those cities. They know they want to go on tour, they just don't know where the hell they want to play. So it's important that you have an agent that understands what the right room is for your band, or you as a promoter understand the right thing. So Rapper X, obviously a hip-hop artist, right? He's fictional, by the way. He doesn't exist. Don't go Googling him. Just made up a name. And so Rapper X, you want to have him in the hip-hop club, something that makes sense. Like here in Toronto, putting Rapper X in a club like Lee's Palace or the Horseshoe, which are great venues, but they're traditionally rock and roll venues. So if you're a rap fan in Toronto and you see that Rapper X is playing at the Horseshoe, you'd be like, what the hell is this? This doesn't make sense. Why aren't they playing at Rebel Nightclub? Why aren't they playing at the Phoenix? Why aren't they playing one of these other venues? It has to suit the artist itself. It's gotta be cool. It's gotta look right, or the ticket buyer isn't gonna buy into your show. They're gonna know you're an amateur and go, look, man, these guys just booked Rapper X and they're putting them in some nightclub way out in the west end of the city that's had 3 shootings this year. I'm not going there. So you're gonna lose money. It's gonna look bad. The artist is gonna look bad as well. Everyone looks bad. So finding the right venue is really important. So once you get that venue hold, you're going to move ahead and go from there. So now you've got the concert booked, you got the artist booked on the date, Rapper X December 1st, let's call it Rebel Nightclub in Toronto is going to go. Now we got to start promoting it. Okay, how do we let people know about this? So my students always tell me, I say, how are you going to promote a concert? And they go, social media. It's just this one paintbrush of social media. No, explain what you mean. How are you going to promote it on social media? So we'll get to that first. But first things first, I'm a little old school. I've been promoting shows for over 20 years. Before we had message boards and Instagram and Twitter, we used to do flyers. See these flyers here? These are some shows I've done over the years. Method Man, I've done dozens of shows with him. All the Wu-Tang guys. By the way, I have a book, Life on the Road with the Wu-Tang Clan. It's available on Amazon. You can go check that out. D12, Royce the 5'9", Joe Budden, Classified, Busta Rhymes, all these guys have done shows for hundreds of them. And these are flyers that each individual nightclub across the country did for their show. It looks good, looks great, it's a good design. So I'm a firm believer in still getting paper flyers to hand out to people. Get out, hustle, hang outside of clubs, give flyers to people, come out, find parking lots at other clubs, put the flyers in those windshield wipers. I did that for years till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning at clubs all over Toronto and at my shows all over Canada and the US as well. Flyering is still important. Make sure you have a good design. You might say, I don't know Photoshop, I don't know what to do. I didn't either. Now I know how to use it, but for years I didn't. So I always paid guys. You can pay a guy 50 to 100 bucks to do a graphic design. It takes a good graphic designer an hour or two to do flyers like this. So find a good graphic designer. Don't have a Bush League flyer. Make sure it looks good because one, it represents the artist, and 2, it represents you and your company and the brand you're trying to build. So we got flyers done. We're going to do that now. Again, I'm still old school. I want print ads. So the bigger concerts you'll see, for example, the New York Times, New York Post, Toronto Star. You open up Beyonce August 10th next year at the Air Canada Centre, Scotiabank Arena. It's changed. And there will be a big full-page ad on the back of the Toronto Star. And that's still valuable. It's still, you know, people still look at print ads. Or here in Toronto, there's like Now Magazine. In Vancouver, there's the Georgia Straight. These are like weekly news magazines that have news and entertainment and what concerts are happening this week and those sort of things. So get a print ad going, right? You don't necessarily have to use the Toronto Star, but use your local kind of music mag. Then we get to the online stuff. So web banners. These flyers are equally as important. So when your graphic designer does the flyer, make sure he gives you different formats of that design. So these are the basic flyer designs that you're going to get on a card, but also get like elongated ones for website banners. You know, if you're going to advertise on your local hip hop blog, you know, there's guys like G-Man and Risk in Vancouver that they have a website that people in the Vancouver area know that, like, I don't know who's promoting the concert. I'll just go check G-Man and Risk's site, and all the concerts are there. So they get paid by Live Nation and various concert promoters to post their flyer announcements or their show announcements on the site. So look for places like that. Get a web banner. Also, now we're talking social media. So you want a Facebook banner. Yeah, I know Facebook's for old people, but it's still important to have that event invite. It's almost like a hub for people to see. You get a good reaction too. People like, oh, this Rapper X is going to be crazy. He's never been to Canada before. This is going to be nuts. And so have that Facebook group, get Facebook banners, get different ad designs. And so you can also get an idea of how many people are interested, because people will click and say, yeah, I'm going to come. And then you can also update stuff like, hey, we've moved up the show time. Doors are going to open at 8 o'clock, not 9, blah, blah, blah. So Facebook's still important for promoting events. Twitter, I'm a big Twitter guy, especially in hip-hop world. I don't know so much about rock world, but I know in hip-hop world, in EDM even, Twitter is still a big platform to promote events, and you know, make sure you have Twitter. Anyways, Instagram as well. I mean, Instagram's a big thing. You can constantly update your story, post little videos, post updates, what's happening, get videos from the artists themselves, i.e. Rapper X. You know, hey, I'm coming to Toronto December 1st. Don't forget, get my tickets. I'm going to be at Rebel Nightclub. Here's where you go for the tickets. You know, give them your Facebook group, your website page, whatever, Instagram. So using your story, and then also getting people of influence. So, you know, here in Toronto, it's a big city. They have tastemakers. This might not be the case in some smaller towns across Canada and the US, but in all the major cities, there's those people that are considered cool. They're in the arts. You know, sometimes it's you know, NBA players, athletes, whatever, but make sure they're also mentioning the upcoming concert on their social media. Some of those people get paid, others are just excited to see the artist, and so obviously you don't want to be giving out hundreds of freebies of tickets, but you do need to give out a certain amount to make sure the right people are at your show, because they're going to be tweeting about it and, you know, putting it on their Instagram story, their Snapchat, and all that good stuff. And then also, again, old school radio is still a very viable option to promote concerts. You know, go to your local radio station. Now, radio ads don't come cheap, right? The bigger the radio station, the more expensive the ad buys are going to be. So you can get a decent radio ad buy to promote your concert, and they don't just do one ad. They run ads for like anywhere from 10 days to 2 to 3 weeks sometime in advance of the concert. Now, you don't want to do it in the 3 weeks leading. You want to do it 3 weeks at the announced date. So the concert may be December 1st, but you want to buy your radio ads whenever the show went on sale. So for example, let's say I confirm the date on September 1st. So you want the radio ads, you know, kind of the first couple weeks of September. Once you do the announced date, hey, tickets go on sale September 6th for Rapper X, and this is where you can go get them. So radio ads are still very valuable depending on the city. I know here in Canada, most of the major cities, you're looking minimum about $3,000 to do radio ads. That's with the smaller stations, anywhere up to 15 to 20 grand. If you go to the, you know, the bigger the audience the station has, the more money they're going to charge you. Now also, the more often you do events, is the less these fees are going to be. So if you're buying print ads, you've done it on the show, you're going to pay an arm and a leg. You haven't done a concert, you're going to pay an arm and a leg for radio ads. When you're doing them on the regular, you know, you build relationships with people and those amounts get cheaper. But continue to do radio ads promoting the show. Tickets on sale here, this is where you can go, on and on and on. So continue to push the show for weeks and weeks on end. Don't ever get lazy. You know, anytime I've done shows where I've lost a ton of money, Sometimes it's just the cards weren't right. I remember I did a show a couple of years ago for some big EDM DJs that had never been to Toronto, and it was a ton of hype on them. We had the right club in downtown Toronto. It was great. Anyways, that night it was literally about -40 outside. So we'd done some pre-sale, a couple hundred pre-sale, but we had almost zero walk up to the show because people opened their front doors and went, "It's freezing, I ain't going nowhere, I don't care about that club." So sometimes things just happen, right? There was a big festival, Budweiser Digital Dreams, here in Toronto a couple years ago. Rainstorm for 2 days straight. You know, these guys lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because every DJ still got to be paid. You know, everyone's got to be paid, but the show's canceled. They got to refund all the tickets. So sometimes things happen, but for the most part, when your show fails, it's because you were lazy. You didn't push hard enough. You weren't promoting right. You didn't have the right flyer. You didn't have the right radio outlet. You didn't have the right people involved to help you. It's always a team effort as well. One man or woman can't do it. Get people around you that can help. I'm trying to think what else I need to tell you. Other things, you know, the starting small is so important. I'll tell you a story. A couple of years ago, I had this guy call up, and I knew he was a wealthy businessman in Montreal, and he says, "Chris, I want to start doing concerts. I want to do festivals." And again, he'd never done a concert before. I said, "Let's do something small." He insisted small for him was a hockey arena show. So I ended up booking him Ludacris, the rapper and actor, and I got Luda 80 grand, which means I made 10%, so I made 8 grand myself. And I told this guy in Montreal, "Your concert's gonna fail, you're gonna bomb," but I made sure he paid 100% up front. I got that money from him, and sure enough, the concert bombed because he started off too big, you know, and Luda got his money. He was cool. I'm obviously probably wanted a better show, but didn't get it, but he still got his 80 grand, went back to ATL the next day, did his thing. I got my 8 grand, and went and had a good night that night in Montreal. Meanwhile, that guy, never heard from him again, never done another show. So start small, build a good reputation, and go from there. I'm Chris McKee. Don't forget, you can check me out on Twitter at Mr. McKee. That's MrMCKEE. Check me on Instagram, Mr. McKee CM on the end. And of course, I mentioned earlier, get my book, Life on the Road with the Wu-Tang Clan. It's about my decade plus on the road as the booking agent and tour manager for the Wu.